Hello everybody. Happy Tuesday. I totally do not know what day it is, even though it's only Tuesday. So this vlog kind of started out with me on a sick day. I don't know if you remember that. And I showed you guys a bunch of books. I have a review for one of them. So this is called It Ends With Us. And it's by Colleen Hoover, and I've read her before. I read Verity by her, and that was intense. And this, holy moly, it's a romance novel, but like not your typical romance novel, and it's very intense. I will tell you that, for trigger warning, it's heavily with like physical abuse and spousal abuse. So just so you know, it gets a little rough in some sections, and there was like and I've never done this before, but there were like an entire probably good chapter and a half that I like could not read at all. So it's intense, but so good. So if you ever get a chance, read this, but if it's too much, I don't recommend reading it because it's very intense. But overall, really phenomenal writing, and compared to Verity, I didn't know what to expect because that was the only thing I'd ever read by her, and it had like romantic undertones, and it was like darker, but like definitely not like how this is. But yeah, so 5 stars overall, but just be aware that even though I am recommending it, it is intense, and there are some parts that aren't necessarily happy sunshine rainbows. But yeah, and then there's another one right in front of me. I'm reading this one. This one is called Before She Was Found. This one is a thriller mystery. It's actually set in Iowa. The author's from Iowa, which is like the only time you ever see that is if like the author is from Iowa, the book will be set in Iowa. And I've only read 2 books so far in my life, I believe, that are set in Iowa. So this one, and then another one called All the Things We Didn't Say. I had to look at the bookshelf. That one's called All the Things We Didn't Say. So far, this one is really good, and I have a feeling that it'll be pretty quick read. I could have read this one more today, but I wanted to read this one, so later in the week. This will be my accomplishment. Oh, so I can't really tell you very much now, except that it is kind of set. It's like a police file, like all the stuff from the story is like different parts of like the police investigation, and all I can tell you now is that like an intense event has occurred at the train tracks, where the main character was like found beaten and bloodied and stabbed, and so I have a feeling it's gonna be an intense one. But yeah, so those are kind of the 2 that I'm like heavily into right now. I've got a ton more on my shelf. There are currently 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 that I need to read. And this one I just picked up today. And don't take my speed of it into account. I started it at like 12:30 and just finished it at like 4:30. So yeah, I am a fast reader, but it'll probably take a normal person much longer because I'm a psycho person who like can't not read books fast. It's a thing. But yeah, so there's your little impromptu book review for today's little clip. I don't know. Maybe this will become like a thing and I just review different books. Who knows? Maybe. Put it down in the comments if you want that kind of segment and I will start working on it. Hi everybody. Back again for yet another little hello. It's the end of the month. I did nothing of note this month except read. And that's it. It's been kind of slow, but I'm glad that it's finally getting over because it has been ridiculously cold and I am ready for warmer weather, more sun, and no school eventually. My algebra teacher has like a little calendar thing, or I guess like weekly agenda things, online. And so each week has a link and I counted them all and we only have 9 more weeks left. So we're getting there. We're almost done. I only have 2 classes for the rest of the year, which is phenomenal. Yeah, so it's going great. I finished, because this is kind of a thing now. I finished that one book that I talked about yesterday. The one before she was found. Very good. I didn't quite know where the story was gonna go at the end. So the ending was shocking in like a good way because there were like the author wrote it in a way that like you could see multiple ways of it ending before you actually figured out what happened. So that was very good. I give it an A+. Right now, because it is the last day of the month, or I guess second to last day, I am trying to get through as many books as possible because I have quite a long stack. So now I am getting into this one, which I've started a little bit, but now it's going to be like my main focus. I showed you this a couple of days ago. This is one that I got on my little sick day book buying extravaganza. So very excited to see what this is all about. Yeah, so that's kind of the plan. But yeah, so I am trying to get through. I think this will be the last book I'll be able to get through before April hits. And then the rest of them will have to wait. But we're making good progress. Hi everybody, back again because I've done it again. I finished another book. This one is called Reminders of Him. It's another Colleen Hoover book. It was so good. I read it in 2 hours. Love, 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 love. Read this book. Yeah, I love this book. This might be my favorite one that I've read of hers so far. This is so good. Such a good book. I'm here on this wonderful Saturday with my chocolate croissant. And my very large coffee. I also wanted to update you guys because I had a doctor's appointment on Wednesday. And it was very interesting. So I've been having like crazy chest pains for the longest time, probably for over a year now. And we just didn't know what they were. Like if they just like all of a sudden came and then they were there, and then like they get really intense and then they get really like mild and manageable. And it kind of fluctuates, and some days it's so bad that I can't go to school and I can't sit in the chair and I just lie in bed all day. And it's not very comfortable or fun. We are in the process of getting a new seat for the chair because this one just needs to be burned and sent to the fringes of hell. and stay there for all of eternity because it sucks. So we are getting a new seat. Insurance is kind of being difficult, as I like to be, so it's taking a little longer. We're just going through the approval process right now. Oh my god, can you hear it? The neighbors are jump, skipping, hopping around. Anyway, so the doctor, my main doctor here in town, referred me to an orthopedic specialist at Blank Children's Hospital. And so they set up that appointment at the beginning of March for the end of March. So we go to this appointment and I get x-rays done. So they x-ray my spine, my hips, my hand. Apparently, like, when you have scoliosis, which I've never done this before, but like x-raying your hand, like the left hand, is like something they do, but I had no clue about that. But they're doctors and I'm not, so we're just gonna go along with it. So we get into this exam room and we talk to the nurse, and the nurse mentions, why I've been referred, the scoliosis, the rib pain, the like chest pain, all of this. And my mom was like, okay, full stop, hold on, because we know about the scoliosis. Like, that's a thing. It's, been a decade. So we just want to know about the rib stuff. And so the doctor comes in and she examines me, asks me a bunch of questions. And it's actually kind of funny because she worked with, years ago at Gillette's, my orthopedic surgeon, who has done every single one of my leg, hip, knee surgeries, monitors my scoliosis, all of that jazz. And she knows my specialist for cerebral palsy. She knows Dr. Ward, so it's just like kind of, we found somebody that we can vibe with and that we know they're gonna kind of be on the page and level that we need them to be at. So now, with all of the questions that I was asked, the orthopedic surgeon or orthopedic specialist, I don't think she's like a surgeon. I don't remember. I can't pronounce her name. It starts with an L, but it's very, like, I can't pronounce it. But so she thinks that the rib, like my rib cage, so my rib cage is shifted. So like my left side sticks out a little bit more than my right side. So she thinks that the shifting is just natural because of the scoliosis, and the scoliosis, that is a thing. Like, the rib cage will shift because obviously the spine is curving. So she thinks, yes, the rib cage, it's nothing to worry about. It's just moved because of scoliosis, because of my leaning. That's not a big deal. But she says that the pain, she thinks that it's nerve pain. Because and so this is a quick lesson on the anatomy of the rib cage, but each rib, if it's coming around like this, here's just a little curve, there's a nerve that runs along the entire length of it. And that pain, which that can happen, pain can stem from like anything, from like herniated discs or stuff like that in your spine. And so she thinks that it's nerve pain because it's always there and it's always constant, and it like fluctuates. Like, it'll get really intense and then manageable. So now I am getting an MRI of my I don't know what the term for it is, but like my rib cage and my spine, and like all of that, because the MRI is more like you can see more going on than just with a plain x-ray. So here we go, another medical adventure. It's gonna be so fun. We'll see what happens next. Yeah. Hello everybody, it is 8 p.m. on the dot and I have had a busy afternoon. I have been writing a lot. You all know this, I love to write, I love to read, but I've been working on my own novel, seeing as I have so much experience with reading other people's novels and reading really good novels as well. I thought I could take all that I know and try to create something of my own. And it is quite the adventure. So I started last year, just before school ended, writing a novel that was kind of more action, based in reality, based in like modern times. But I've gotten kind of bored with that, and I'm not going to drop it. I just wanted to kind of change things up a little bit. And so I've been getting really more into like fantasy, like the cool fantasy stuff, that I have decided to kind of build and create my own little world. And I have spent the last 3 hours deep in a research pit. I've been researching everything pretty much. I have researched, well, first of all, I scrapped everything that I had written in this novel so far, and that was luckily only like 2 or 3 paragraphs, and I just restarted because I did not like how it started originally. And my thing was that I couldn't quite figure out how I wanted it to go. So here on this page, I wrote it down instead. And it's weird, but like I'm sitting here trying to type it and I can't figure out how to write it. But then when I pick up a pen and try to write, it like just flows much easier. So I've been able to get out of a lot of my blocking issues by writing it whenever I get stressed. But I've only written 2 paragraphs because I don't know if you know this, but writing a book, especially one where you're building your own world and you kind of have to like make up things and like combine things, it's not very easy. So the first 2 paragraphs are kind of very basic. And then after that, I'm delving more into like the backstory. And so I needed more information. And this go around, as I'm rewriting the book, I wanted it to be a lot more creative. I feel like before I kind of had a pretty basic, boring outline. But now I kind of want to incorporate like spirits and different legends from different parts of the world. And also stars and constellations were like a big thing that kept popping into my mind. So I wrote down some different stuff about stars and some different water spirits, because so far the big thing that I've introduced is spirits that control the water. And so I needed quickly to figure that out, and that was pretty easy because you don't need much backstory on it yet. And then we got into like actual star research. So I looked into how you navigate, because the big thing is I don't really know very much. It's in my head, I just have to like get it onto the paper. So I looked up Northern Hemisphere navigation and tip. The best way to navigate in the Northern Hemisphere is to use the Big and Little Dipper. Because the Big and Little Dipper will actually lead you to the North Star, because the North Star is the very end of the Little Dipper. And if you connect the North Star to Dubhe, I think, Dubhe, that star, then you will get the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper connected. So I learned that. And then I also, oh my gosh, I've spent the last 2.5 hours probably diving into 15th, 16th, 17th, and 19th centuries, their history, what was going on, but also the fashion and the architecture and like what I want. So I looked at different clothing styles for each century, and I wrote down like the different things that I liked about each thing to hopefully kind of create my own version of all that combined, because some of it was tragic, but there were some parts of it that were like cool. And if you take the cool parts out of the tragic parts and you put them with the better parts, you're gonna get something magnificent. And so I did a bunch of research about different styles, and then I did a lot of research about settings. So I said setting, what is Avonmore? So the Isle of Avonmore is like where, like the main setting, but it's obviously fictional. I've created it in my head, but what does it look like in my head? So the best I could come up with was the landscape and atmosphere of Scotland. So kind of more rockier, more misty. It's got more coastlines, that kind of, because we're in the middle of the sea, remember. The political structure of England. So kind of like that parliamentary monarchy. Yes, Dad, I'm going monarchy here. So he and I go rounds on royalty and monarchy and the use of those types of political systems. But so political structure of England, the architecture of Russia in the 18th century, which would be, I gotta backtrack a little bit, like 1700s. Yeah. So 1700s architecture, Russia. The lifestyle and feeling of France, plus the architecture of France in the 17th century. Plus, I also wrote down like the different styles within like different centuries that I liked. So like in the 15th century, I like the fitted style and the flowing skirts. In the 16th century, I like the higher necklines and like the more boat shaped. And then in the 17th century, I liked the simpler, more fitted design with no ruffles. God, there were so many ruffles. It was like hard to look at. And then the fitted, especially on the guys, like they would have these huge ruffled collar things that like wrapped around their whole neck. And I said a fitted neck collar with no flare out or up. So like it just like lays across your shoulders. So kind of like a shawl. Google it is all I can tell you. And then so I also love the children, because I forget that I also there will be kids in this, so I love the kids' clothes from the 1840s to the 1850s. Like, oh, they're so pretty and gorgeous, and I love the structure and the fit and the shape. And honestly, I might be incorporating more of the kids' designs from the 1840s to 50s, and into the adult designs, but I don't know. And so overall, I said 17th century France for fashion, plus the 1840s to the 1860s fashion. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. But no, I have had an interesting day, and I need to take a break because my head feels like it's going to explode and my brain is tired, but at least I've kind of got better base, better outline, better get things done.